So I got my brain into a stable place and I got my emotions into a stable place. And I was still feeling a pull back to the darkness. Not quite the same as the survival brain completely lost the plot and desperate to go and fix it. That was now under my control, but there was still a sense of a pull. And I was finally stable enough to look at that and think, what is that? Like, what is that? And it was two things for me. So I'm going to describe those to you now. I discovered there was a wounded part in my soul from many lifetimes ago that had gone through kind of a similar trauma to the dark material I had seen. Now then, I certainly didn't know that buried part of me was in there, but when I saw something kind of similar, that's when the wounded part of me came up into the light as well. Now, all I needed to do was a soul retrieval. I'm sure if you're watching this video, most of you know what a soul retrieval is, or again, there's so much information out there. We are so ready for this. There is so much information on healing and healing complex PTSD, healing trauma, healing anxiety, bringing the mind back, bringing the emotions back. There's so much information out there and so much information on soul retrieval. So that's all you need to go and investigate, or you might already have your own methods. So it was actually an easy fix, but getting to that place of knowing that's what it was tricky, which is why I'm so happy to be able to just tell you, just do a soul retrieval. Because the issue was for me, back in the initial trauma, when I just looked into this whole other level of darkness, and my mind is all over the place, chaotic, emotions chaotic, I was feeling this buried part in me come up, and I was feeling it, and it felt terrible. This was a really deeply wounded part of my own soul. And because it had like similar trauma issues to the darkness I'd seen, it felt like this resonance between the two. Now, to start with, just to get on top of my mind and emotions, I just had to close the door on that and just say, I can't look at that yet. I just need to come back to safety. As I said, once I was strong enough, I could go, what is that pull? It was this part of me kind of resonating, not because I'm evil, not because I'm dark. If you've got a similar pull going on, it's not because any part of you is anything to do with that. It's just a wounded part of your soul that is ready to come home, and you have been strong enough for that part of you to come up and for you to stay in the light and be able to welcome it back into the light and be whole again. As soon as I'd done the soul retrieval, oh man, the pull all but disintegrated. Honestly, I could then clearly know what was me, this being of light, and that darkness was that, and it was over there, and there was a really clear differentiation between what I was and what that was. Because when we encounter very dark levels, it does have a lot of power behind it. I call it stolen power. It's got a lot of stolen power behind it. It's very compelling. It's been developing its own tortured belief system for a very, very, very long time, and that in itself, it just generates a lot of power. To me, it felt like a bit like a cyclone, really. So it's all about learning what I was and what that was, and that this part of me, it's not because I was evil. I would just say it again, not because you were evil or there's something wrong with you. It's just a part of you that needs a soul retrieval. It's all it needs. It's all that the dark needs, right? It just needs one massive freaking soul retrieval. Push it back up into the light, which is kind of what's happening. That is what's happening. It's like a massive collective soul retrieval out of this darkness, which is all lies. It's all self-denial and denial of source and denial of love. And those deepest depths of darkness is just where it ends up when it's been in that belief system for so long, and it's just twisted in on itself so much. So, soul retrieval. That got rid of nearly all the rest of the pull for me. The last piece of the pull I discovered was, and this makes me smile because I love the way the brain works and the psyche works. Even when it causes a few problems along the way. Right. So, my survival brain, when I was in the initial trauma, was trying to go back there to fix it all again and again and again, as I explained. Something that was fueling that was a grain of truth. Now then, not a grain of truth that I was dark. We've already established. No. There was a grain of truth that maybe I was supposed to go back in there to be part of the massive team of light to dismantle those layers of darkness, those particular layers of darkness. Because I was thinking, what is the purpose in this? What is the purpose in me seeing that? And this grain of truth, it was like a little bird knocking on the window, like, listen to me, there's a truth in there. But of course my survival brain was like, even more reason to be the hero and go off and da. So I had to just get rid of that grain of truth for a while. I had to do something with it because it was, fueling my survival brain to go off and re-traumatize me. So I had to sit down with this grain of truth and go, okay. So you're saying I might one day, as part of my mission, be going in there to help dismantle darkness. Meanwhile, the higher part of me, my more intelligent brain, a bit more evolved than the survival brain, was saying, absolutely no frickin' way are you going back over there. You're going to re-traumatize yourself. You're going to start doing some serious damage to your own frickin' psyche. No. So I've got this grain of truth, like, yeah, but, and my higher self going, no. Now then, the survival brain, it's simple, but it's not stupid. You can't lie to the survival brain. You have to make things believable. You have to honour the truths that are there. So I needed to honour this grain of truth, and I also needed to honour the wiser part of me, which is like, do not go back in there. Do not. And this is how I did that. I took that grain of truth and I said to it, okay, I'm listening. Let's say I am supposed to go back in there and dismantle darkness at some point. Terrifying thought. Terrifying. Oh, just had a message flash up. Terrifying thought. But okay, I'm going to honour this truth. However, I'm not going back in there unless I am a spiritual master, completely immune to the dark in a far away life. Now what this did, it honoured the grain of truth to say, I'm listening to you, I honour you, yes, there may be a truth in there. But I'm also going to honour this higher, wiser part of me which says, do not go back in there, by putting that truth far away in time and space. This is one of the advantages of time and space. We can use it to help us. So my higher brain was like, as a spiritual master, complete immunity to the dark, those are the only criteria that fit if we're ever going to go back down there. So yes, okay, I can get on board with that. Meanwhile, the grain of truth was like, okay, yeah, as long as we honour our soul mission at some point, that's great, I can get on board with that. So it honoured both parts, and oh my goodness, the relief Again, I'd got rid of that pull that was going on, because the grain of truth had been fueling my survival brain to go back in there. But with that grain of truth just taken into a far, far, far off life, it took all the steam out of it. So that was the final piece of the pull for me. In the next part, I'm going to talk about cognitive dissonance. So join me for that.